Okay, so I had to stop because there was a siren coming by. I'm sitting in my car and I didn't want you all to have to hear that blaring. So this may be chopped video, two parts. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with this platform and editing and everything, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. But anyways, so I'll just start with my birth story from here. Um, so the day after my birthday, I took my daughter to school. She got out of the car. One of the teachers who picked her up said, when are you due? And I said, anytime now. And I had been having contractions on and off, a little bit, Braxton Hicks kind of things, whatever you want to call them, practice contractions. I don't really like those words. I think they're just contractions. They're all doing something. They're all helping tone the uterus or work your baby into position or whatever. So I was having, I think, a little bit of those. So when I got home and I started to have some, I didn't really think much of it. I just was like, oh, well, I'm going to take a bath and try to get comfortable and see where that gets me, if it slows anything down or if it keeps going. So I got home, my partner was getting ready for work, I got the bath ready, I told him, I'm having some contractions, but I'm going to try to take a bath and see where it goes, see if it stops or what. And so he went off to work, I went and did my bath, and things didn't stop, they didn't slow down. So I figured it was go time, and I just kind of hung out, got dried off, and I think around this point my 2-year-old woke up. So she was, I wasn't sure how she was going to be when she woke up. I wasn't sure if she was going to be her crazy self or a little bit calmer. So she woke up and she was actually being quite calm, and I got her some breakfast, got her some yogurt to just kind of occupy her while I did my thing. Nothing was too intense yet, but the contractions were coming continually. So I called I sent my partner a text. I sent him a text and I let him know that things weren't slowing down and that our daughter was awake and she was doing all right, and I would let him know if I needed him to come sooner than later. So I gave that some time. I, just went with the flow. Eventually she started to get a little clingy and I couldn't really give her the attention that she wanted. So I sent him a text and told him I think he should probably come home and help with her, and asked him to bring me a few things on the way for my labor aid drinks, which are simply delicious and wonderful in labor and keep you energized, and they're also wonderful for after. So I had him get some fruits and things for those, and I think he brought some other snacks as well. And I don't know how long it was. I don't keep track of time. It's not something I'm concerned about or looking at when I'm in labor. There's just really no reason. I think it's more of, it really gets you out of the space you need to be in to labor and just be at peace and, not concern yourself with the rest of the world and what's going on, or, where your body's at, like cervical checks and things like that. Just always seem to be so much more of a hindrance than anything. So I really just get into my body and labor, just, do our dance. And so before he got home, my daughter started to get a little more clingy. I needed to be able to move around and do my thing, so I actually started a shower for us so I could have some water running down my back and she could just kind of play in there until my partner got home. And that worked out pretty well. I did end up stubbing my toe on the drain. My nail got caught kind of on the drain because I was doing lots of hands and knees. Like, that's just the position I had to be in. With my second, I was able to bounce on my ball and move around and do, lots of squats and stuff. But this baby, who I think was possibly posterior at, some point. He needed me to be on hands and knees. So I was on hands and knees. hit my toe on the drain a little bit, and that kind of bothered me. But you know, whatever, small things. And eventually my partner got home. I got out of the shower, made myself a little nest on the floor of pillows and blankets, because that's just where I wanted to be. I don't know, I didn't want to be on the bed for some reason. I have this goddess pillow that I made myself, and I grabbed that and I was hugging her and laboring on hands and knees, and my partner gave me a little bowl of fruit, so I was kind of eating that a little bit, some pineapple and a mix of other things. I got my camera because I wanted to record some of this birth. I wanted to record my second one, but you know, I don't know, I just talked myself out of it. I think it was something I read in Birthing from Within about not, you know, people not wanting to actually see their births, but I kind of regretted it afterwards and didn't. I think it was okay. I think it was fine. I was at peace with it, that, you know, that second birth was just meant to be me and my partner and my memories. So for this one, I did pull out my camera, started to record a little bit, and continued to labor on hands and knees while my partner got the back porch set up, because that's where I wanted to birth my baby, in the pool on the back porch. It was a beautiful day. There were some rain showers coming in and out. October in South Carolina is pretty beautiful. Most of the year is pretty beautiful. We get a few cold days, cold weeks, and that's about it. So it was a perfect day. Not too cold, not too hot. And I tried getting on my birthing ball or yoga ball. I tried bouncing on that, but it just wasn't doing it. Didn't feel right, didn't feel good. So that's just something I didn't want or need in this birth. And, once he got the pool and everything set up on the back porch, I went out there, and I didn't want to fill the pool too soon because I wanted to make sure the water was nice and warm for as long as I wanted to be in there. So I told him to hold off on the water for a little bit after the pool was blown up. And I tried to move around and do some other things, but I just really craved that water. I wanted to get in that nice warm water and do my thing. I love the water. It's always been a part of my life. I've always loved the ocean, lived close to the ocean, loved swimming. They used to call me a mermaid when I was a little kid. My dad's in the military, SEAL. It's always been part of my life. So I just love the water, and I loved it in my last labor. So I move around a little bit, and I get in the pool without water because it's got a nice cushioned bottom, and I still wanted to be in the hands and knees position, and I felt like there were some things that needed to come out. I had to use the bathroom a little bit, but it just wasn't coming. So eventually I asked my partner to leave and go get my daughter from school a little bit early so she didn't miss the birth, because I didn't know how long it was going to be, of course. And the last one, she missed the birth, the baby, emerging and everything. And I kind of wanted her to be there this time to experience that. However, that's, at the end of the story, you hear what happened with that. So he goes to get my oldest daughter from school. I think it was maybe about noon by this time. And I decide to try squatting over the baby potty because, like I said, I just felt like there was something that needed to release. And so I squat and I give a little push and try to, get whatever's there out, pee, poo, whatever. End up with the mucus plug coming out in a really long, sticky, it's like the stickiest thing ever, straying, a little bit of bloody show on there. And I think it was probably just the whole thing just came on out. I pushed it out, I don't know. So then I, cleaned that up and got back in the pool. And I don't remember if we had filled it up yet or started filling it up yet or not. I'm not sure. but I think we had, because I think I got back in the pool and was laboring, and they eventually got home. So then my two daughters were there, and they were just, hanging out, doing their thing. Eventually, it was about nap time for my youngest, and I went and tried to nurse her for a minute on the bed, because I've heard of people nursing their babies in labor, their nurslings nursing. But she had already kind of just had a bad latch, and I was just not comfortable with it. I was already sensitive to it, but I was really determined to get through pregnancy still nursing her, because I just felt like she still needed it, and she was still, pretty young. So I went and tried to nurse her on the bed for a minute and lay her down, and it just wasn't going to happen. I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't do it. So I said, I'm sorry, we're just going to have to figure out something else to get her to take a nap, and I'm going to go back in the pool and labor. So I went back to the pool, kept doing my thing, moving around, laboring, just changing positions, all kinds of positions, hands and knees, holding on to the side, thrusting my pelvis, and just whatever felt right. Bending my legs, stretching my legs, standing up, squatting. And I actually found that rubbing my pelvis area, my lower abdomen, was amazing. Like, I don't know, like I had never touched myself like that in labor before for some reason. But this time I was just drawn to rubbing my abdomen and moving in these different ways. And I wonder if it's because of his positioning, that he just was still working his way into the right place, into the right spot, right direction, whatever it was. And so I was doing that, and it was, hours, and I didn't know how long it was. The baby was running in and out of the house, playing, going in the yard, coming back in, whining sometimes. My older daughter would come and talk to me and say things, and I'd have to remind her to be quiet, because I didn't like really to be talked to when I was having a contraction. I don't like to be talked to or touched really, unless of course I ask, for something. Like, I think at one point I asked my partner to maybe rub my head or something. But other than that, I really like to be just left alone, and I think the pool's great for that. It's great for making your own little personal bubble, little space where nobody can really get to you. Even though my 2-year-old did come in the pool a couple times and hung out with me and just kind of watched me, and she didn't really know what was going on. But it was beautiful. I loved it. I loved having my family around and just seeing them live life, and it was life. It was just birth and life, and it felt so right. And my partner, was a little more focused on me, but then would get distracted with the kids. And so eventually he ended up getting my youngest down for a nap. She took a little nap. My oldest was coming in and out, helping turn on the camera, and then I'd have him turn it off because I didn't want the battery to die, or to make it too long of a video when nothing was really happening. I was just kind of dancing around in my pool. So then, let's see. So I don't know how many hours it had been, but things started to pick up, and I asked my partner at one point, I was like, oh, does it seem like, like these are coming more, closer together or whatever? And he's, kind of like, I guess. And by the afternoon, after school let out, I was actually supposed to meet my sister at the park and stuff, so she was texting me and my mom, and I told my partner to tell them that we weren't feeling well, or that I wasn't feeling well, and that, we'd talk to them later or whatever, just to get them to, not be suspicious and not come over and go do whatever they were going to do for the day. Because I just wanted to be alone. I didn't want them in my space. So I think they still kind of suspected that things were happening, because of course, I was expecting a baby soon. But luckily they stayed away, and they went and did whatever. And I was able to labor at peace with just my, little family there. So things, start eventually to get more intense, and I continued to rub my belly and thrust my abdomen and get on all fours and um, do whatever I needed to do to work the baby into the right position and work him down. And at some point, like, humming just became this amazing coping mechanism. Like, I just started humming. I don't know what I was humming, just some tune, and it would increase in intensity as the waves increased in intensity, and I would move around with it and rub my abdomen, and sometimes I would stand up and sway, and I just love that I have some of that on video, because it was just such an intense spiritual, just amazing moment. Like, I just felt so incredibly connected to the universe, and at one point I started to cry because it felt so powerful. I'm about to even tear up right now. Like, it was so different. It's so crazy how different every labor and birth is. It's amazing, but they're also so special and spiritual, and um, I wish more women were experiencing this point in our lives without disturbance, without being hindered, without being drugged, without people coming in and out of their space and disturbing them. I mean, it's so different having experienced the hospital experience and how disturbed it was, even when I was in a shower alone a lot of the time, but it was still so, I don't know, just so wrong. It just didn't feel right to me at all. And then, having birthed almost completely naturally, and in the end things getting, messed with a lot, and feeling that, that ecstatic feeling, but it's just not the same. It's not the same as when you're not bothered and you're just completely in your body, in your mind, in your soul, and part of the universe. Like, it's just not the same to be in a hospital and birth a baby, like, no matter what. It's a completely different thing. So I was doing that. I was humming. I was feeling this connectedness. I was in the world and not at the same time. It was, my senses were heightened, yet so much of the world just kind of didn't matter and melted away. And there was one point where I don't know, I called my partner over, and he hadn't really touched me much. Like I said, I don't like to be touched, and I don't know, at this point I wanted to feel him and smell him and use him as support. So so there came a point where I called him over and asked him to stand in front of me. There came a point, sorry, I got distracted. So there came a point where I asked him to stand in front of me, and I grabbed onto him and I lifted myself up and just took his scent in. I just took a deep breath of him, and I knew that would kind of help and get the oxytocin flowing, and just loving him, loving everything about him. And so I gave that a shot, and it felt good, and I only needed it for a moment, and then I went back to my process of swaying and rubbing my abdomen and hands and knees and up and down, stretching in the pool, and and having my family around just doing their thing. My daughter was getting impatient, and and I had to remind her a couple of times, again, not to bother me too much, and that this is birth, this is labor, this is what it looks like. Sometimes it takes a long time, because last time we just woke her up at the end, so she didn't really see how long it was, even though that labor wasn't as long as this one. My second was about, I think, 6 hours, and this one was about 10 hours. So I was doing my thing, and then eventually I get to the point where I'm like, all right, baby, I'm ready, you're close to the, close to the opening of my yoni, and let's get on with this. So I reached down and felt, and I could feel him, coming. I could feel him close, to the opening of my vagina, and I just said, "Hey, let's do this." I was, getting a little tired at this point, and so I started giving little light pushes, and working him down, and I could feel him, and I could feel myself stretching, and I could tell that my sac was still intact. I hadn't noticed it rupture, and when I was feeling myself, I could tell that it was still there, it was still intact, and so I don't know how long this went on, possibly an hour, maybe less, maybe 30 minutes. I could go back at my video and look, but just giving little pushes and slowly letting myself stretch and letting him come and making all kinds of noises and laughing at myself and cursing the sack and saying, "Oh, well, this is, this sack shit sucks, and this is why people this is why people rupture the sac," and all that. Just saying things like that, and then I was just, kind of giving those little pushes, telling myself to go slow so I didn't tear, and it was pretty amazing. It was crazy feeling that kind of control at that point, because with my second, she ended up coming so fast. It was just like, bam, she was out, and there was no controlling the pushing. It was just like, oh no, I can't do this. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, she's there. And that was it for her. But with him, it was just like such control. I was slowly, gently pushing. And then I lifted I got on my hands and knees, lifted my butt out of the water, and, well, his head was out. I didn't even know, but his head was out, and I have to go pick up my daughter now, so I guess I'll have to do this one in 3 parts, because I don't know if I can pause this. Alright. Or maybe I can keep talking. Let's see. So his head was out, and I didn't realize it. My partner comes around. I say, "Hey, where are we?" My partner comes around, and he's like, "Oh, it's like the head is out." I'm like, "All right, cool." So, leaning forward, just letting things go. Whatever's happening's happening. I'm not really pushing at this point. It's just happening. So, sunlight. So then, my partner gets behind me, and he's supporting the head. Baby's not breathing yet, so he was out of the water, dipped back in. And I hear people concerned about this a lot, because I think in the rules of water birth, they say once you're out of the water, you need to stay out. But, he wasn't breathing yet. I knew he wasn't breathing yet. My partner didn't question it. But, so, I was still moving, but eventually his head was just out of the water, and he was coming, and my partner was there to guide him out, and I wasn't pushing. He was just coming. I think my partner said something like push or keep pushing at some point, and I was like, what are you saying? It felt so medical to me, like saying that. I didn't like it, and I thought I had imagined it after the fact. I thought I had imagined it, but then later watching the video, I realized he did say it. So I actually asked him not to for our 4th upcoming birth. And he doesn't even remember saying it. But, I just remember it bothering me because I wasn't pushing, it's not something that I was even thinking about. It was just happening. It was the total, fetal ejection reflex. And, so the baby was coming. Once his shoulders came out, he kind of stopped, and I had this weird feeling, and I was like, what is that? It felt like a water balloon or whatever backing up in me. I don't know if the sac was still, kind of attached to him intact, because it had only just come off his head, when his head came out. It was pretty much intact that whole time until his head came out, and we found, part, like almost whole sac, later on. So something, I don't know, felt weird. And but then, after that I was like, what is that? And then all of a sudden, he was out. I flipped around so incredibly fast, faster than I ever thought I would. Flipped around, and it was the most beautiful sight ever. My partner was sitting there cradling the baby, holding him out towards me, and we didn't know the sex of the baby, of course, until this point. I suspected it was going to be a boy. We had a name for a boy and everything. And yeah, so I flipped around. I was like, I knew it was a boy. And I grabbed him and I was rubbing him and I said, oh, you're so cheesy, and oh, you hurt, and all this, all the crazy things you say after you just pushed a baby out. And I had actually torn, at this point I suspected it, and I think after watching the video, I think it's because my partner might have had his hands in the way a little bit, preventing the baby from rotating, doing the thing that he's supposed to do, which annoyed me a little bit. So I forgave him for it. And I can't really know that is for sure the reason that I had the tear that I did, but it all healed up fine, just with rest and putting some nice skin oils and things on it that I love, that my body loves. So then I'm holding my baby and I'm loving on him, and the girls come out. Oh yeah, they had actually disappeared into the house right before. They went off, and I don't know, whatever they were doing, some kid stuff, watching a movie or eating candy they shouldn't have been eating. But they came back right after, so they missed the emergence, or my oldest missed, the baby emerging once again. But she did get, to see the whole long process that it can be too. So they came back and everyone was admiring the baby, and I said, oh, and I was, complaining a little bit about the intensity and stuff, and my partner was like, oh, well, you asked for it. And I was like, what? I didn't ask for this. I asked for more, like, emotion, I think, from the last one. Like, it just seemed so simple and everyday, and it wasn't like, some of the videos where you see people crying and getting all emotional about it. So I think he misinterpreted that a little bit, but anyways, it was still beautiful. It was still just life, and everybody admiring our new baby and taking pictures. And the water got a lot bloodier this time than it had last time, but I knew it was just, I just had a feeling it was because the placenta was really close behind. And so again, I felt like moving to the bathtub to fully birth the placenta. It just felt good to change space, to get into some clean, fresh water. So I went to the tub, moved around a little bit, squatted, and eventually the placenta was born. And that was that. That was it. We, eventually got out and went to bed and rested, and it was pure bliss. Got a meal, and my mom came a little bit after. It was like perfect timing. She came right after and took my older girls for the night, so it was just me, my partner, and the new baby for that night. And I need to go because there is going to be a kid invading my car who's going to start talking, I'm sure. So that's about it. Have a beautiful day. Bye.